Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 1:07 p.m. and I hereby call this EAGI committee to order. Before we proceed, I'd like to ask everyone, general public and members, to please keep in your prayers the repose for the repose of their souls, Rupert Warnick Babauta and Raymond Camacho Tudela, two young Sinamai sons who perished in the waters of Oahu early yesterday morning. And also, please keep their families in your prayers as they grieve and mourn their loss. Thank you. I would now like to recognize the legislative assistant, Mr. Devin Macaranas, to call the roll of the committee.
Senator Selena R. Babauta,
Present.
Senator Karina L. Magofnia, Senator Paul A. Mangalonia, Senator Donald M. Mangalonia.
Present.
Madam Chair, 3 members are present, 1 member is absent.
With 3 members present, we've established the quorum to conduct today's official meeting, and I'd like to note for the record that Senator Karina Magofnia is hereby excused from this hearing. Today, we will be vetting the credentials of Miss Valerie Atelig and Miss Rebecca White, both nominated by the administration to serve on the board of the Commonwealth Utilities Corporation. I am Selena Babauta, and I serve as your chair for this committee. Also, I'd like to take care of some administrative matters. I'd like to ask everyone to please silence your electronic devices at this time. We are live on cable and Facebook and YouTube of the NMI Legislature channels and page. And so if for any reason we need to take a recess or a short break, I would like to advise everyone to keep in mind that Facebook will continue broadcasting without sound. At this time, I would like to introduce everyone to the committee. We have Senator Donald Mangalonia. We have Senator Paul Mangalonia, and also the professional staff of the Legislative Bureau. We have our counsel assigned to this committee, Ms. Antoinette Villagomez, our legislative assistant, Mr. Devin Macaranas, our sergeant at arms, Mr. Will Uggan, and our IT assistant, Mr. Delbert Camacho. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda, and I'd like to recognize Senator Donald Mangalonia for the proper motion.
Madam Chair, I move for the adoption of today's agenda.
Second.
Motion has been made and it has been seconded. Are there any concerns or questions on the motion?
Ready?
All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Today's agenda is duly adopted. At this time, I would like to invite the Special Assistant for the Administration, Mr. Oscar M. Babauta, and the nominees to join us in the chamber. Mr. Babauta's role is to formally present the nominees to the committee. And Mr. Babauta, you may begin as soon as you're ready.
Madam Chair, good afternoon. Once again, I wish to thank you and the hardworking EAGI committee, Senator Paul and Senator Donald, who have been here this afternoon to conduct this public hearing. We all know that the past few weeks has been tremendous issues with our own scheduling, as well as our Senate, respective Senate memberships schedules. However, I wish to thank you again for reinvigorating this public hearing for the administration's nominees. And for the record, my name is Oscar M. Babauta, presently serve as a special assistant for administration under the office of the governor. And I am officially here on behalf of Governor Arnold I. Palacios and that of Lieutenant Governor David M. Apateng to officially bring before you and your members and introduce formally the governor's nominee for the members of the Commonwealth Utility Board of Directors Corporation, CUC Board of Directors. We have on my right is Miss Mallory Atlick, who is currently in the chamber representing the 1st Senator District of Rota. And on my left is Ms. Rebecca Agnes Camacho White, representing the 3rd Senator District and that of the Carolinian community members as well. Ms. Atlick obtained her bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of New Mexico and her master's in teaching from the University of Guam. She's currently a teacher at the Guam Department of Education at the I Learn Academy Charter School. Ms. White received her bachelor's degree of science in business administration in our own Northern Marinas College in 2019, and have worked her way up from a receptionist under the White, Pierce, Millman, and Notting law firm from 1998 to 1999, and currently as Secretary Office Manager for the Law Office of Michael A. White since 2013. I know both individuals stands ready to answer to your questions and the members on their present their plans for the future of our Commonwealth Utility Corporation Board of Director and its agency. So that being said, Madam Chair and members, on behalf of Governor Palacios and Lieutenant Governor Apateng, I humbly request for your support and favorable consideration in confirming Ms. Atlick and Ms. White to serve as members of the Commonwealth Utility Corporation Board of Directors. Once again, I thank you, Madam Chair, and your esteemed members for the opportunity to appear before all of you this afternoon. And hopefully we'll see you again tomorrow, the whole day. Thank you, and I wish this two fine young women and their families the best of luck in this public hearing. And on behalf of them and their respective family members, we express our gratitude to all of you. Jesus Masi and buenos dias.
Jesus Masit, Mr. Babata. We will now move along to the next item on the agenda, which is public comments. And the floor is now open for public comments.
Good afternoon, Madam. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to appear in front of you today, and committee members too. Thank you very much. I'd like to speak on behalf of these two new appointees to represent the people of the CNMI and the as CUC members for the board. In my right, Ms. Atlick, I wholeheartedly support you for that effort and moving forward. And I would say that Ms. Rebecca White, I've gone long ways with this girl. She grew up with my daughter, and she's just like my daughter herself too. So I know her since the early days, and even up to the time, even up to now. She has worked with her dad. She has done her diligence as far as, helping the people as much as she can with regards to serving while working for her dad. And with that, I wholeheartedly have the confidence to say that she would really put on guard the interests of the people when it comes to the board of a CUC. So, Madam Chair, I don't want to speak much, but I can tell you, I can attest to you and this committee that this lady is far-fetched to take the helm on this. Thank you very much. Jesus Masi. Jesus Masi.
Thank you, Mr. Benavente. For the record, can you state your name, please?
This Dispensa do si Roman Cepeda Benavente. No, I'm also personally a representative of here in the House, in the legislature, and also a member of the SNIO delegation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benavente. The floor is still open for public comments. Thank you. There being none, I will now close that portion of our agenda. For the record, we received no letters in opposition of your nominations, ladies. And I just want to state for the record that Ms. Valerie Atalig was nominated by Governor Arnold Palacios on June 9th, 2023 to represent the first senatorial district, the municipality of Rhoda, and Ms. Rebecca White was nominated on July 12th, 2023 to represent the third senatorial district, or Saipan and the Northern Islands. Both have been nominated to serve as board members of the Commonwealth Utilities Corporation, and these nominations require the advice and the consent of the Senate, a process unique to the Senate. And this is the legislature exercising its authority under the Constitution and laws of our Commonwealth to vet the credentials beyond educational and professional experience. So I welcome you, ladies, and that is why we are here today. Each member of this committee has the inherent obligation and prerogative to ask probing and exploratory questions of your character and of yourselves. And I would now like to ask both of you ladies to please rise and raise your right hand as the legislative assistant will administer the oath to you.
Valerie Atlig and Rebecca White, you do solemnly swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you shall give in the matter at hand shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
You may be seated. Thank you, Devin. Moving on to new business. This is the part where we begin our question and answer program portion. But before we do that, I'd like to ask both of you if you would like to make opening statements. And I will begin with Ms. Atalig.
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you. Thank you, esteemed members of this committee, Madam Chairwoman Senator Selena Babauta, Senator Paul Manglonia, and Senator Donald Manglonia. I thank you all for your time and consideration of my credentials today at this hearing. I would also like to take this opportunity to offer my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who has voiced their support for me throughout this process. I especially thank Governor Palacios and Lieutenant Governor Apatang for their nomination. My name is Valerie Atalik, a prospective candidate to the CUC board from the island of Rhoda. I'm honored to be here and privileged to be considered for membership to the CUC board as it serves a critical function. Decisions made on the board impact our community, our businesses, and our families. In preparation for today's hearing, I had an opportunity to reflect on my body of work and think about how my experience can best serve CUC and our community. The common thread in all of my professional roles is my ability to gather and analyze data and formulate plans to achieve an overarching goal. I hold a bachelor's degree from the University of New Mexico in business and a master's degree in teaching from the University of Guam. As a teacher, I gather, analyze, and report data on student progress and use data to drive strategies that achieve curriculum goals. I report progress regularly to stakeholders, including parents, administrators, and content teams. Reporting is a function of accountability and helps stakeholders understand what progress has been made toward achieving goals. Regular and open communications with stakeholders establishes public trust and fosters cooperation. If approved to serve on the board, it will be one of my priorities to earn and maintain public trust through good governance and accountability at all levels. My work outside of teaching has included administrative positions. I served Rhoda as a resident director for the Department of Commerce for a time. Through this experience, I learned about economic challenges that impact our people, especially in Rhoda. For instance, the price of energy, fuel, and shipping in Rhoda are particularly restrictive to businesses. Most people spend the largest amount of their income, the largest portions of their income, on utilities and food, and do not have much discretionary income to power a well-rounded economy. When fuel prices go up by a few cents in the region, it is felt in Rhoda by the dollar. And looming in the background is the knowledge that when fuel price increases, so does the utilities cost. This impacts everyone in the community, especially businesses. In addition to freight, businesses that use refrigeration and air conditioning are continually challenged with increased utilities costs, which result in higher prices on average in Rhoda. If allowed to serve on the CUC board, incorporating renewable energy will be a major priority because reducing dependence on oil will bring about affordable energy that will allow businesses to thrive and people to have the funds to start a new business or support existing ones. As part of my professional experience, I've also worked with architectural and engineering teams through the project lifecycle. I've written winning bids. I've worked with engineering teams to procure specialized equipment for military and commercial applications. I've ensured compliance with military specifications through submittal and reporting processes. If allowed to serve, I hope to ensure fair procurement practices and closely regulate compliance with bid specifications and reporting requirements. This summer, I was asked to help companies improve organizational efficiency. I examined existing workflows and designed custom mobile applications to streamline workflow by automating tasks. These apps allow field workers to capture and document field data, generate reports, and set action items to support teams automatically. The apps are integrated with a host of other apps to create automated workflows. If approved to serve, I commit my knowledge and experience in support of efficient operations, fair procurement, and regulatory compliance at CUC. I know that the team Governor Palacios nominated would have the combined experience and collective will to move CUC forward. I hope that you grant me the opportunity to serve with them. I thank you all for your consideration and welcome any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Atalik. Ms. White, would you like to give your opening statement?
Thank you, Senator Babauta. I intentionally did not prepare myself of
Okay.
opening remarks only because I just wanted to speed up the process. But I do want to thank SAA Babauta for the introduction. I want to thank our Honorable Governor and Lieutenant Governor for the nomination. And I want to thank everyone here for their time and their consideration. I also want to state that in the OPA's financial statement, I did disclose that I do work for a law firm and our office does do collection work for CUC. I want to state for the record that I will recuse myself. Excuse me, I'm really nervous. I will recuse myself from any matters involving my office, and that's in compliance with Public Law 4-47, Section 8153.
Thank you. And that's fine if you don't have any opening remarks. We just like to give the opportunity to nominees. At this time, we will begin the question and answer portion, and I will recognize any member who wishes to begin. Recognize Senator Donald Manglonia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Ms. Athalig, Ms. White. Thank you for coming in today. I know there were several schedule changes, so thank you for accommodating the committee. I just want to begin by just understanding more about your professional experience. Ms. Athalig, it does show, at least on their latest resume, that the last work experience was listed in 2021. So, sorry, I know SA Babauta mentioned, Babauta mentioned that you're currently teaching. Is that correct?
That is correct.
But you're also doing other projects,
Yes,
like you
I-
mentioned, the summer projects.
I do summer projects. I also I contract independently during my off hours, so I do have quite a full schedule.
Okay. And I just want to note that I have on several occasions met with Ms. Valerie at her time with Commerce. I understand that. I think I think the street naming discussions came about when you were the director then, and so it's still moving since the last time that was discussed. In general, I just wanted to. You mentioned something along the lines of renewable energy, and recently in the news, it was announced that there's a grant that would provide 2,500 homes to benefit from this solar grant. However, one of the comments made by the administrator of the grant is that, and I'll quote, this is a big chunk of CUC's base load and that will have a ripple effect on the cost of fuel and fuel delivery to Rhoda and Tinian. And further along that article that was posted or that was published in the Variety, this will have a huge impact into CUC's operational expenses in regards to, with more customers going into solar, that would affect CUC operations. I just want to get your understanding of how that would affect CUC and maybe what are some of the things that, what are some discussions that could be made in order to plan for the implementation of this project or of this grant, and what maybe both of you can contribute in regards to how this would affect CUC and how this would, whether it would, there's a long-term benefit for the people, or where can we see CUC in the next 5 to 10 years should this program roll out?
Is this for me? Yes.
Well, for both of you, but if you can start,
Okay,
Ms. Atlee.
I'll begin. I think it really depends on who owns the solar panel project that's funded under the grant, right? So if it belongs to individuals, then CUC has less control over how those panels are maintained and what the billing structure is going to be like around those panels. If this is a grant that will fund a solar project that will ultimately belong to CUC, then CUC maintains control of the maintenance and operation of those solar panels and the billing that surrounds them. So ultimately, the question would be, where is the grant funding going? And if it was going to individuals, how do we establish equity? Who gets these panels and who gets this funding? And how do we prioritize the most, the people that need these panels the most? Are the ones that don't often afford power on their own. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Anything you would want to provide, Ms. White, in regards to renewable energy and how this solar? I'm not sure if you were familiar with that article when it first came out, and have you looked into that or?
I was able to get a hold of Mr. Cabrera, Epifanio Cabrera, and he did brief me on it. I would say that I do understand the ripple effect that it will cause in terms of finances, but as Ms. Apatang mentioned earlier, the cost of living in Rhoda is almost triple what Saipan would have to shoulder. So I think if it was managed properly, it can be a successful project.
Thank you for that. A lot of the issues that we hear from our constituents revolve around utility rates, and that's one of the biggest concerns, and that's why there's these grant proposals being introduced. But I think that what the article was suggesting is that while we are going to reduce the cost of utilities, the price of fuel may increase due to the lack of demand from CUC if more of the customers switch to solar. But I think that in moving forward, there's a lot of moving parts that are happening right now. I mean, we've recently confirmed PUC commissioners to assess the rate situation and the cost it would be for residential customers versus government and versus what do you call this, private companies. And so there's a lot of, and there's even legislations that are currently in committees that would provide for some kind of rates, like moving CC from a government rate to a commercial rate, and that would affect again the overall rates for our residential customers. I guess where I'm getting at is until we can get the rate situation resolved, there's that would kind of put you as directors in a bind to determine how to continue operating CUC, but also looking at other avenues like renewable energy and how that could support our CNMI. The one other issue I wanted to bring up, and if confirmed, it's something that you can further look into, is just and I've mentioned this with Mr. Mafnas in his hearing, is the pay disparities between our Rhoda and Tinian employees versus Saipan. We've seen a high turnover with the CUC Rhoda employees because they're moving to Saipan to apply for the same job that pays more. And so these are some issues that I hope, Ms. Atalik, you can look into if confirmed and kind of see how we can support our road operations equally as we do on Saipan. And again, these also involved the opportunity for overtime or giving that same opportunity to our people in Rhoda and Tinian as we do on Saipan. My next question is for Ms. White. I was looking at your resume, and you spent most of your professional time in a law firm, and so I just wanted to see how has that prepared you to handle this role in addressing the CNMI's utilities?
Working with the law firm for so long has allowed me to look at, how do I say this? To look at scenarios from different angles. It has taught me to come up with solutions that would work best to address the issue. I'm sorry, I'm really nervous.
Would you like to take a break?
Yes, please.
Short recess.
to just trying to make the connection with what you currently do. Again, a lot of our constituents don't see the resume that you submitted, or they may not know either one of you personally or professionally. And so, if I were to be asked the question, why did we confirm, or why did we support the confirmation of either nominee? I want to be confident in saying that Ms. White or Ms. Atalik has demonstrated her, vast knowledge of the challenges we face and how we're going to address them. But just to know you more, Ms. White, going back to my question is, how has your experience in a law firm prepare you to take on a role that would, essentially either save our utilities or provide our customers or our people with easier access to whether it be renewable energy or cheaper rates and the such. So if you can just give a brief explanation as to how you can connect that.
One of the biggest things that I've learned working at the firm is you need to look at things from all angles, and you need to find the proper solution to whatever the issue is that you're facing. I think that I just crashed. Being there for so long, I was not only able to work my way up the ladder, but I found ways to keep the ball rolling in the office, so to speak. We made the necessary adjustments that was needed whenever something came up. We found solutions, even if it was right there in front of us and we just were too caught up to even notice it. So I would say that was my biggest takeaway.
Thank you for sharing that. I also noticed that you have worked as a collection clerk, right? And you've dealt with situations of trying to collect and trying to recoup some of the funds and stuff like that, but also understanding the situations people are going through. And so with CUC and with all these collection notices going out and demand for payments, this is something that you may very well have to deal with in terms of maybe coming up with policies or regulations to not only collect, but also how can we make it easier on people to collect from, and also what are possible solutions that we can provide or offer the ratepayers. One of the issue I brought up too in the past CUC confirmation hearing was an agreement that CUC came out with that is requiring customers to sign that they cannot complain or call CUC to complain about their water situation. And so these are some of the things that I wanted to see if you can share in terms of your experience in the law firm, particularly in collections, and how we can also address the situation with CUC and trying to collect from its consumers.
I want to reiterate that if it involves collections with the law firm, I will have to recuse myself. But I would have to, I guess, consult with legal counsel for CUC to ensure that procedures are followed, and that we're still able to meet the customer's needs.
Thank you. I just have one more for Ms. Athalig before I yield. Ms. Athalig, you currently reside on Guam?
Yes, I do, for work.
For work. Are you familiar with Guam's utility system? With its, I know they have a solar farm, and
Yes, they have the Manilao solar plant. I was actually privileged to be part of that installation. Actually, their administrative buildings. So I interacted very well with the Samsung engineers in Korea in order to select equipment and answer their questions regarding um, their AC equipment for the administration building.
do you know whether, do you know what are some of the challenges that they're currently facing after, this having been, um, I guess, since the start of this project? Any challenges that they may be facing that we can address if ever we find ourselves in that situation?
I think one of the most heavily publicized issues with the development of the Manilao solar farm was a ponding basin by the contractor wasn't built. This was to protect Marble Cave from any water runoff. And so what ended up happening was water flooded into Marble Cave and ruined that natural site. And there was like outrage over Guam about that. I think that when considering a solar project, selecting a site that doesn't damage, critical natural resources and, endangered species, those kinds of things like that needs to be taken into consideration. And then, just making sure that it's engineered properly so that it has the least negative impact on the environment.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll yield, Madam Chair, to allow other members.
Thank you,
The
Senator
opportunity.
Donald Manglonia. And I recognize Senator Paul Manglonia.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I guess we were in recess when I was making some statements. I just want to state for the record that I commend Governor um, Arnold and Lieutenant Governor Dave for actually submitting several names to the female nominees to the Senate for consideration in the various boards and commission. And I have to say that here we have two more nominees who are educated and experienced, and I think will serve CUC, will do a great job in serving as board members at CUC. um, I know that both nominees work and have busy schedule. Uh, I guess maybe start off with Valerie, because I know that presently you're on Guam and you're teaching,
Yes.
and so um, do you think that you would have the time to work around your schedule as well as CUC for the meetings? And can you just maybe
Yes.
elaborate on that?
Thank you, Senator.
well-
As a teacher, I do have different periods of which I'm actually teaching. I'm actively teaching throughout the day. And then I do have different periods throughout the day when I have a prep period when that is my discretion to use. I am hyper efficient as a teacher. I've become very, very efficient at my job. So when thinking about how teachers work, probably what's most people picture is a paper and pencil process. That is not my classroom. My classroom is very technology based. So my assignments are automated. I've automated my entire classroom. So what takes a regular teacher 3 days to process grades, my grades process immediately. And I'm able to react to that data live in real time. So whether or not I have the time, I can make the time. Yeah.
With with proper notice, I'm pretty sure my boss will allow me time.
Val, let me get back. So you're staying on Guam. How would you respond to some people saying you're not a resident of Rhoda?
Rhoda is my home. That's how I would respond to that. Rhoda is my home. It's always gonna be my home. It's been my home. I've I've been registered to vote in Rhoda since I was 18. I haven't missed an election since I was 18. I continue to vote for my hometown. I continue to be supportive of initiatives that benefit Rhoda and monitor closely things in Rhoda. Um, my family still lives there. My friends still live there. My community is there. I had to leave Rhoda in order to look for work, like many, many other of our people. But Rhoda will remain my home. I own property in Rhoda. I have a vested interest in the future of Rhoda. So Rhoda is my home.
Thank you for that response. Again, reading the mission statement of CUC, and I quote, the Commonwealth Utility Corporation is dedicated to excellent customer service and effective power, water, and wastewater services for the people of the CNMI at the lowest reasonable cost while providing safety to the employees and community. This is your challenge, the two of you, and I have every confidence that you do a great job. And Madam Chair, I yield at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Paul. Um, Again, as I stated earlier, it is, we understand your limitations to the answers you may provide because we know that you have not had an opportunity to observe any of the CUC board meetings. And if I'm not mistaken, they conduct their board meetings once a quarter. So that should be ample time, I think, for them to notify both of you to be able to attend those. I'm not sure when the next one would be. And I also want to state for the record that it's actually refreshing to see women rise up to the challenge and take leadership roles in our government. I think diversity is important in our government, especially when women take leadership roles. It provides for a more balanced perspective, I think. So I want to welcome you guys to, and thank you for taking the challenge. Um, there is currently legislation introduced to separate CUC from the power division from the water division. And with water division comes the water treatment service, wastewater treatment division with that. Oh, can you lend us your thoughts on that, both of you ladies? We can begin with Ms. Atterley.
Um, I was privileged to watch the hearing of Mr. Simon Sanchez from Guam,
Mhm.
and I tend to agree with his opinion that it is, for financial purposes, um, better to separate the two so that we can keep track of what the costs are for power versus water and make decisions, you know, for budgeting and for expenditures by separating those two entities. But the governance of those two entities in transition could still be made by one board, and maybe in the future, a separate board for water and a separate board for power. Um, but I do agree with that particular piece of legislation. I just think it would make things a lot easier and a lot easier to track financially.
Have you had an opportunity to read the proposed legislation?
No, but in concept, I agree with the concept of separating the two just so that things can be
It's easier to account for.
Yeah, and even to track inventory and compliance issues, that becomes a lot easier because it's not a question of well, which part of CUC is this? You know,
Okay, thank you. Ms. White, would you like to offer us your response to that?
I agree with Ms. Apatang. I think it would be beneficial for CUC. I was also informed that power currently subsidizes water,
Mhm.
and that's where a lot of the expenses is also at. So I think it if done properly, it would work well.
Okay. Thank you. That proposed legislation, by the way, was introduced by Senator Paul Magnolia. And we ask that of each nominee for CUC board that has appeared before our committee, because we want to hear, as policy makers up here on the Hill, we want to know and be more engaged with board members who make the policy calls in their respective departments. So we appreciate that. Since 2009, you probably know that CUC has been under the watchful eye of several federal agencies, the District Court, US EPA for violations of public health and violations of the Clean Water Act and a whole bunch of stuff. And to date, 9 out of, if I'm not mistaken, 9 out of 14 are still not, of the mandates of the order from the district court still have not been complied with. And it would behoove you, ladies, to be familiar with that so that we can find solutions for it. It's really what we ask of CUC and their board members. Also, just to bring up to your attention, it has been published in the papers that CUC reportedly loses approximately 200 million gallons of water per month. So they're only able, for the water that is processed and purified or to be able to run through our taps, only 37% is being billed. The rest we are losing money on. And we brought this up during every single CUC board members hearing. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, that is outrageous. And these, that's money to CUC that they need. And we're losing it to water theft or meter malfunctions. So I hope that, once the board is complete, they will seriously take a look at that. It's amazing how much money CUC loses. And we don't know, at least I don't know, how long this has been going. But it is a very serious problem that we see. And we hope that CUC board can look into that further. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but OPA in their 2017 audit of CUC documented that the agency's long history of political interference and its operations by qualification requirements for the executive director found that insufficient revenues in CUC's power, water, wastewater divisions led to inadequacies of the water, wastewater, and power divisions and their fuel storage systems, and that's how they were cited and subsequently came under the federal district court's watchful eye for violating the Clean Water Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act. And one of the biggest problems that CUC has right now is, while they are able to find qualified individuals for the position of executive director, this is mandated by the district court, by the way. They are mandated to have a qualified financial officer. They are mandated to have a qualified executive director, meaning somebody with experience and degree, advanced degree, by the way. But their biggest issue is retaining those qualified individuals due to political interferences or from the board or from elsewhere. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, that if both of you ladies should be confirmed by the Senate, that is also a serious issue aside from the power and the water. Also, I'd like to ask you for your thoughts on the CUC and CHCC issue. I'm not sure if you've read or heard about it. but CUC has issued a disconnection notice to CHCC. They were able to sit down with the executive branch and come up with an agreement. And as far as we know, CHCC has been complying with the payment uh, installments of their arrears to CUC. And we understand that it is approximately around $53 million that CHCC owes CUC. So can you please give us your opinion on that high arrear from CHCC to CUC? And by the way, CHCC is now asking for a change in their rate tier. They are being billed as government um, rate. They would like to be charged or move into the commercial rate tier, which is less expensive than government. And in fact, legislation was introduced here in the Senate and it passed the Senate. Actually, it's now in the House, to move their rate from government to commercial. So I'd like to ask your thoughts on the whole issue of their debt and arrears, CHCC's debt and arrears to CUC. We can begin with you, Ms. Atale.
Well, in considering the function of CHCC in the community, I think first and foremost it is important to protect life. And regardless of what bills they owe, that the door should always be open to discussing a remediation plan, how to get back into good standing and current with their billing to CUC, and also to look for different financial instruments to assist CHC become current. So it's a problem of financing and looking for different ways to help CHC pay its bills. With regard to lowering their tier, I, I would want to know more, especially the impact on CUC as a whole. I mean, how big of a hit financially will it be, and whether or not they're willing to trade that off, because it is the hospital, and all of us and our families, when someone is sick, is going to need to avail of a hospital that is running, that has power, that has clean water for dialysis patients, that has air conditioning for people that need to go into surgery and they have to have a certain temperature and even to have a surgery, right? So because of its critical function, I think every effort needs to be made to accommodate CHC remediate its billing towards CUC. I think it's just something that needs to be worked out financially in a way that makes sense, that is actually attainable, and brings them back into current instead of arrears.
Thank you for that response. Ms. White, would you like to respond to that?
I want to go back to something you mentioned in a previous nomination hearing. You mentioned something about retaining qualified individuals because, or CUC failing to retain qualified individuals because of their frustration with board and the management and not renewing contracts and the need to abide by the stipulated orders.
That was actually cited in the OPA audit.
I just wanted to throw something in that I found.
Mhm.
I haven't read it, and I don't know if it's only focused on qualified individuals in the U.S. mainland, but I do want to say that there are a senior executive and executive management based in the South Pacific. And on the website that I found, one of the members is actually based in Pohnpei. So it was just an idea that instead of focusing only on the U.S. mainland, we can also check other islands within the Pacific. As for CHC, Ms. Apatang is correct.
Hmm.
Life is important, and there is a comment that Representative Marissa Flores had made when they had a public hearing. One of them was to put all the CHC offices in 1 meter,
Hmm.
and those certain offices that, for example, the employees are under austerity, they can just
Hmm.
turn that off instead of cutting the entire CHC. So that's another
Okay.
idea.
Those
For
are
example,
options, right?
yeah.
Yeah, to separate the meters based on the different um, hospital departments. That sounds logical and rational. I don't have any more questions. I just wanted to, um, state some issues that we're aware of with respect to CUC, CHCs, and it's not actually just a CHCC problem. It's a government-wide problem. Obviously, came out in the papers also that government aid departments under the executive branch are also in arrears, not as high as CHCC, but going back to CHCC's issues with CUC, um, based on their presentations here in the very chambers you guys are now sitting in, they have stated that the 53 million is not all their usage arrears. A lot of that, a good majority of that, is their interest and penalties, and that if there was a good faith effort from CHCC to pay an agreement, an installment agreement for 1 year, that they would be willing to waive the penalties and the interest, and their actual arrears would actually only be 8 million. So that's something for you guys to consider as well, as you think about your membership to the CUC board. I don't have any other questions, like I said, but I will recognize Senator Paul Manglonia for the second round.
Thank you, Chair. On the CUC issue, in the last budget hearing we had a week and a half ago, I asked actually what is their plan or on how to pay back the arrears, and is it budgeted? And just want to let you know that there is no budget amount that they have that they will include. So this is a big challenge for CUC and CACC to address. So you will find that this is going to be a topic that you and the board would be constantly talking about. On the rate structure, prior to that was one of their response, that they're hoping to change the rate structure um, in the very near future, so that then I guess that's one way of addressing the shortfall. But I just want to say that PSS did it a couple years back. Now CACC, and then we don't know who's next. So rate structure is something that will be a priority for the board to look at the study, and then eventually what kind of rate structure for the various government agencies also. Um, Becca mentioned about uh, water being subsidized by power, and I think that's very true, and and that's why we're glad for this bipartisan infrastructure law funding from President Biden that actually gives the cinema about $21 million a year, hopefully to address the leakage and all these, because we're subsidizing because of the losses that we're not actually selling to the consumers, right? And we, as you know, here we have wells to operate and all that. So your other challenge is to make sure that we push these projects out, because we have the money, but we don't have the engineers, the people that the managers, project managers, and all that. That's something that we have to push so that we can complete this project in time. That seems to be the problem forever in the CNMIs. We have the money, but we don't move them. No, so a challenge for you too. So I have every confidence, Madam Chair, in the ability of our two nominees, and I'm ready to support the two nominees for CUC. I think they will bring a wealth of uh, experience and just hard work coming from the two women. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Paul. I have no questions, Senator Maloney. At this time, this concludes our question and answer portion. I want to thank both of you ladies for making the time to come and appear before our committee. And you are hereby dismissed.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
We will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is miscellaneous. Do any of the members have anything to announce or provide for?
Just that, sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just so that members are aware, and I'm sorry I was on rota yesterday, so I had to push out the notice. We will have MBA budget hearing on Thursday at 1 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Manglonia. I just have an announcement. Well, the notice has been issued, but we have our next EAGI committee meeting tomorrow morning starting at 10. And we will be here all day tomorrow to vet the nominations for the Civil Service Commission nominee, Ms. Michelle Joab, at 10 a.m. And then at 1 p.m., we have the nominees for the CHCC board, Mr. Juan Necay Babauta, former governor, as well as Ms. Mariah Barcinas. And then at 3 p.m., we are vetting the nominations for Mr. Antonio B. Cabrera and Mr. Bruce L. Jorgensen, nominated to serve on the CPA board. And that will be tomorrow. If there are any conflicts in your schedule, please let me know. Next item on the agenda is the adjournment, and I recognize Senator Paul Minglonia for the proper motion.
I move that we adjourn subject to the call of the chair.
Thank you, Senator Paul. Motion has been made and has been seconded. Are there any concerns on the motion or
Ready.
questions? There being no objections or concerns on the motion, it is hereby adopted. This meeting is now adjourned. It is now 2:15 p.m.